you ready?
We are so back, boys.
Are we?
Okay.
Are we?
Dude, I like to think so. How are gamers doing today? How are you doing, Nun?
Okay, I guess. I like ending up recording at the same normal time.
Yeah. That is how it is. All right,
okay.
Are we going to... Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Weeb Club. Weeaboo Club. It is another weekly. I was about to try to say the number, but we don't do that anymore. I have no idea what number it is.
I mean, I have a rough idea of the number. I could figure it out in not that much time, if need be.
Not worth it.
Because I've made 20 thumbnails since the new one,
okay.
since we've returned, so 20 plus whatever the last shit was. 45, so 65. Yeah.
Nice. I love to see it. Yeah, new episode. Excited. Comments. There are like none that I care to talk about. So,
Well, it took me a moment to decipher what the first two are, and now I understand what they are, because they're Weeb 629, which was the original title of the episode when it
went up.
Which means that, so none didn't change the title and thumbnail in time, basically.
Yeah, that was his. He said like my bad or something in the chat because it went up like that. It was only up like that for like an hour, but
Okay. Well, because like I thought. See, yeah, I did. Because what happened was I don't know. I did the security thing before that, so I don't know. Oh well.
It is what it is.
Ombre said something about fucking consuming shitloads of media to establish dominance over the others. Apparently, I don't get it because that's not why I do it, and I think assuming that that's why is annoying and whatever.
I mean, he's clearly kidding. I don't think that's serious at all.
I don't know. I've been assumed to think things that I don't by people who think they know me, so, you know.
dang, this guy just fucking hit him with it. Yeah, I mean, I would assume most likely as well that he does mean that as a joke, because I feel like it's hard to listen to you talk as much as you do, like on this podcast, and think, I don't know, and think like, oh yeah, this guy just wants to make his number bigger.
Yeah. And there was nothing on the Reddit, so.
Alrighty, gamers, topic, what is it? I don't know.
I don't know either. I asked and no one responded.
Craftsdwarf, what's the topic?
Fuck you! I asked and nobody responded. The topic is we're ending the Weeb Club.
Oh my god, no! Well, I can't put the last topic, so I shouldn't do it again. Not the last one that was the Patreon one, but the one before that, I thought. Maybe I didn't. What was Nun's topic that you had mentioned?
Craftsdwarf, what was my topic?
This fucking
Why
guy.
are you asking me?
What the hell?
I know what it was. I just want you to say it.
I don't remember. I remember mine.
Oh. Well, it was things we dislike in Battle Shonen.
Oh.
Nothing. Alright, moving on.
Things I dislike in Battle Shonen. Okay, I can go. I have one. And so this isn't like a thing I dislike, as in like I think it's a problem. It just sometimes it's what will absolutely every time make me stop reading a Battle Shonen if I do, which is like, you know, the series will spend all this time introducing all these characters, and so like the cast gets bigger every time, and then it'll like have like this big arc that finishes that's long, and then like the next arc starts, and the first thing it does is introduce like 10 new characters. It's like, dog, I am putting this down. And like One Piece is the biggest perpetrator of that shit, where like an arc starts in One Piece and they get to that new island and it's like, here's 20 characters. I hope you're ready to take a short quiz on all of them before the climax starts, or you will be lost. It's like, Oda, please. But just like other examples of ones, Reborn does that a lot, where also, especially with like the most recent time I dropped it was right after like the Future arc, and it just introduced a bunch of characters. And I was like right after the Future arc, it just introduces a bunch of people. I was like, I am okay. I'm good. And so that's like really like the thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say pervert characters, because I mean that's not like unique to Battle Shonen, but I guess it it tends to fit just the shonen demographic in general, just because like kids are perverted and it's kind of like allowable for kids, especially boys, to be perverted, and thus manga aimed at boys has perverted characters, and they tend to be not great usually. I mean, it's like, okay, it's not that like the characters themselves can be good, but usually like the perviness, even if it's meaningful, tends to at the very least not be very funny. So it's like whatever, but it's
I feel
also
like sometimes
go on.
I was just gonna say sometimes it feels like it just outstays its welcome. Like I feel like even if like they have cool things about them outside of their pervertedness, it feels like it doesn't actually just go away at a certain point, or like doesn't become mitigated enough. Like it's still too much of a big part of their character, I feel like that's just not always necessary.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, because like I can't think of any specific I mean like even the specific, like, because Sanji definitely has moments where it's not funny, but then he does have moments that I think like there's some moments in Wano that I thought were funny, that they made me laugh. So it's occasionally it's fine, but like it's very when it's not fine, it's and that, especially if like I mentioned in Cutie Honey, there's a lot of pervert characters already, and then there was one in particular that really bothered me because he was nothing but that, and it was just really annoying. So
with like MHA being as far along as it is, I still think of like Mineta's like pervertedness. Like I know like obviously his arc has like challenged that, where like he has to be a hero above like his perverted desires, and like he has to realize there's obviously more to being a hero than like wanting to get girls and stuff. And like he's not really in the limelight much at all because of like what's going on, but overall, like I think the only reason why it comes off as like less that way is just because the story hasn't had time to really like show him. And like I just think like his like perverted arc thing is just not that interesting. Like he really only has like the one moment that's like kind of good when he was fighting Midnight. But like other than that, I feel like it's just kind of like a little dull how his thing is handled, kind of. And I feel like that's the case for like a lot of like side character, like pervert characters, I feel like.
Because I remember making the point in my video that, didn't you edit the pervert character video, or am I misremembering?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, because I just had the point in that video where it's like, just, the fact that he does want to be a hero to catch the attention of girls is like it's in line with the idea of the series, and that like all these characters are heroes for a different reason, and they can't just be heroes for the sake of being heroes. But that's it, and it doesn't stop the perviness from being unfunny or annoying when it comes up, even if it's meaningful, right? So
yeah, like it's one of those things where it's like he's really not like as bad as like he's not enough like around enough to be like really obnoxious or whatever, so it's like it doesn't really make sense to like hate on him, but he's just kind of an example of like he's all right. Like it's like it's not really that great. Along the same kind of line, I guess, with what you said, it makes sense to like bring up now is I can't think of an example of like a perverted like one of the antagonists has perverted but also gay, and just kind of like like the Okama guy in Reborn is like a recent example. He's just not funny. Like I've never seen that like be good in any like anything. I can't think of it like an example.
No, and it's very much a kind of like dated thing, like I mean, it's because it's homophobic, right? Just having the bad guy, but also they're gay because that's bad, right? Like that's
it'd be like one thing if there's like I feel like series that do that, it's usually like their literal only like gay character. So then it just makes it like especially like jarring.
I'll play devil's advocate for a second, and argue that they're just all trying to be Dio. Dio had such a massive cultural impact that I like genuinely on some level.
I think extends way beyond like before Araki was born, and that's including the fact that he's immortal.
That's fair. But I do think that like when you look at like the way that a lot of series like never mind, I'll stop talking then.
Okay.
I didn't know. I don't know. Words are hard.
I think it gets like especially bad when you like mix it with like hitting on men, and then also like when it's like children and stuff. Like I remember an antagonist in Flame of Recca that there's like this kid character who's like fighting. Like he has this like, I don't remember what the character's name is. Even if I describe it, nobody's gonna know who I'm talking about. But it's one of the kid characters in like the main cast, and I think it's in like the final arc. I just remember him fighting an antagonist that's just like really into him like a lot, and it was just kind of like tiring to see, because it was just like, especially when so many antagonists in that series are just kind of like it's really like not the main villain, but like all his lackeys are always just like, all the lackeys of the main villain in that series tend to just be like, I'm crazy, look at me, I'm like so quirky and crazy. Like it's like what people think of Danganronpa antagonists, I guess, but that's just like the entire group except for maybe like the main guy.
Mm-hmm. And I did remember, because even in One Piece, like when Mr. 2 first gets introduced, one of the first thing he does is kind of like, he blows a kiss at Vivi or whatever, which definitely feels like it's kind of leaning in that same like, this non, traditional, like in this case, it's Mr. 2 is more, he's, non-traditional gender norms, I guess, and that's one of the first things he does. But looking at the entire character, it definitely surpasses that, but it's still there, right? And I don't know. Then there's like, I don't know. I think overall, like the presentation of like the the Okama and the all this gender stuff in One Piece works, but there's it still does use some of those tropes, I guess. Like obviously there's the island with all the Okama ladies chasing Sanji and stuff, like that's still in the manga, but
yeah, I think the problem with One Piece's depiction is like, if you're not one of the named characters who's like relevant and stuff, then you're just kind of like, I don't think it's displayed well. But like the ones who like actually have names and like are actually characters and stuff, like they're well respected, and like it's clearly more going on there. It's just kind of like the background ones, well, it unfortunately fall into some of that. I feel like,
going by design wise, like the ones on the Kamabaka Queendom, they dress like women, but they don't look very like attractive in that way. But like comparatively, the ones in Impel Down, they're just like regular people who happen to dress like they came out of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is very much the point and a stated influence on that level 5.5. Like those characters don't look like, if you compare them side by side, there's obviously big differences as far as like, here's this crowd of characters, right? So I think it's really just that one group that's just a little so
yeah, I feel like, yeah, I mean, part of it might have just came down to, it's like something to mess with Sanji in a certain type of way to point out a thing about him, maybe taken a little too far. But outside of that like one instance, I can't really think of anything that's like super bad.
Yeah.
Especially with like, as the story has gone on, it's gotten like even more nuanced and like better about those things.
Right. And then two things to add to it is like, one is that like, because you point out like how it's there to sort of reflect Sanji and who he is as a person. So it's, and like, as I've observed, he's never actually like attacks any of them, like he still sees them as women, even if he doesn't find them attractive, right? Like even in the anime, I think when Funky edited the video that he did, he pointed out that like he also never, like even in the anime original content, he attacks them but he never actually hits them, kind of like he does with Khalifa. So and then the other point is that Oda has like, so with Frankie's voice actor, like they actually went to a lot of Okama bars and stuff, so he's very like he's like, so any iffy parts, like I just have, I don't know, I have to be like, he's familiar with that subculture of people through like lived experience, basically. Yeah. So like Oda himself. So it's, I don't know. I've thought about like doing a video on Oda and but obviously like the big hang up is that I want to wait until Yamato's stuff is complete before I actually do it. But it's just something. So it's a topic I've thought about. So, and I know we've talked about it quite a bit in the Nen show, because as is a running Nen show joke, whenever gender comes up, we talk about it for like 20 minutes. So it is what it is.
I think it's an interesting thing too, with like when you consider like also Togashi was kind of like flawed in Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah,
with how he displayed that, and then into Hunter x Hunter, it's like he's way different. Whereas with Oda, like One Piece is like one long series. He hasn't had like the chance to like break it up with multiple series, but even just within the one series, he's shown like a lot of growth, and I feel like because it's one series, any like mistake he made like way earlier on makes it seem like it's the same, like he's the same sort of person, just because he hasn't had that like advantage of like starting fresh, so like everything is like examined together in a different kind of way. But it is kind of an interesting topic, I feel like.
I guess so this is kind of a segueing into back to like so it's continuing on from that, but also in a way that goes back to the original topic. But because another example I think of Oda like just being weird in a way that like isn't congruent with the whole story is Pell's death in Alabasta, where it's like I think there's so many aspects to the like as a death scene, it's really good and works, but obviously he doesn't die. And it's like even the Falcon statue like breaking apart as he sacrifices himself to symbolically represent his death that doesn't happen is weird. Okay, like I. And then there's like someone even pointed out to me how like there's a tendency like when they party afterwards, it's very much like, I don't know, I guess someone suggested the idea of like, it's like a complete celebration, but Alabasta was weird because it's like, because usually when they don't have a party, it's at an arc that's either like incomplete, like, Jaya, they don't party because they go to the sky, or it just straight up has a bad ending, right? Like, most of the arcs through the war, from Shabani Archipelago to the war, like, they don't party after Whole Cake Island, right? And they barely fucking made it out of there alive, and they had left Jinbei behind. So, Alabasta, they had a party, but also, Pell died. But I guess, Wano, they had a big party, but they at least recognized the deaths of the characters that happened in Wano, on their side. So, it's just the way Alabasta specifically was handled in, like, I brought up the Mr. 2 thing, and then Pell is just, it doesn't quite line up with how the rest of the series goes, which, to go back to the topic, is, like, I'm over it. And I'm very, because characters dying but not actually dying. Like, I understand why it happens from a story perspective, because especially considering it's an ongoing manga, because like there's this drive to make an engaging story to keep people interested, especially younger audiences, right? So I understand why it happens, but I would really like a Japanese perspective, like a voice, like someone who knows, because obviously speaking in Western circles, like everyone fucking hates it. We all kind of, like, I don't, like, I'm just over it because I've seen it so many times, and I've seen people lose their fucking minds over it, and me just not feeling that strongly just makes me not care. But, I'm not, so it's not, I guess it's not a thing I hate, but it's still, like, it's,
I mean, old Crafts definitely used to fucking hate that shit. Man was going off on Naruto and fucking Nensho. You and Mathwis.
And Fairy Tail. Same person. But it's like, because I understand why it happens from a cliffhanger point, but there's also just a matter of like, I get to a character death in a thing, and I just go like, yeah, whatever, right? Like that's not necessarily a good reaction, right? So,
I think the problem with a series that does it a lot, it becomes like if it happens, you're just, instead of like, oh my god, no, not Kudera-san 542, no. You're thinking like, is he gonna come back? Is this like legit? Like you can't feel the emotion because you're like questioning if it's permanent, which is not the way you should be like interacting with the story. Like I feel like that's one of those instances where like you shouldn't have to be like logically thinking about it. Like you should be able to feel the emotion first and then like think about it. But like instead you're just kind of thinking about it a lot, and it kind of like dulls the emotion.
For sure. Right. Like I can think of examples, especially with One Piece, where it's just like, people not reacting to a character, and in some cases that character wasn't actually dead, and in some cases they were, and having the ambiguity kind of, especially like it fucks with it for sure. So I thought of another thing, but then I realized it doesn't actually apply, and I was really thinking about like isekai light novels. Well, because like I remember I think I was watching ReZero, and I was like, wow, this is a really cool story that also looks like it's gonna go on for fucking ever, and it's not even close to done. And I was sort of sitting there realizing that like almost at the time, especially like there's like so few finished like isekai stories, so it's like because they just come out pretty slowly, and I remember feeling just like, well, you know, at least with shonen, you know, even if there's like really cool interesting stuff going on, there's also a great backlog of shit that's already finished, so you can just go back and read the big, you know, even if One Piece is still ongoing, you can go back and read Dragon Ball and Naruto and Bleach and Yu Yu Hakusho and Fist of the North Star. Like there's a ton of shit that's already fully done and complete, but with isekai it's a very recent thing, so you know there are stories that are done, but none of them are like my favorites, so it's so sad. But yeah, that's not related to the topic at all. Do you have anything else, Vindy?
Yeah, I hate when I'm reading a fucking battle shonen, or I like a battle shonen, and then I fucking open Twitter and see people talking about it. That shit always ruins my day. You're all fucking stupid. Stop talking about it. Just leave it to the professionals. All right. I think that's it.
They can be really fucking stupid too. Just open Comic Book Reader. They're all professionals, and they're all really
that's true. Just
forced
leave it
to make
leave it
shitty
to
articles
leave it to us,
under
the
strict deadlines and with certain headlines. Like I think that's right. I think someone because there was like an Oshinoko article that's discussed it as an isekai because it had a reincarnation thing, and then
how did he even see this?
And someone pointed out that they were probably made to include isekai in the headline because it would get more clicks, and it worked because I saw the name of the fact that the article was being talked about, because people were like, that's wrong. Like, it doesn't matter if it's isekai or not, it's gonna generate discussion because like it's such a popular genre like in Japan that it ends up becoming a popular genre in the West, just because like we're getting, especially how many isekai shows are we getting this year? We're talking about one, right? Like it becomes something we have to be aware of and discuss, right? So yeah, just an example, you know, because like I want to be kind of fair to some of these article writers, but then like we did the CVR episode, it was pain. Like they're not good articles.
That's true. You're right. So I guess the more accurate thing is, anytime I see anyone anywhere talk about a battle shonen that I like, that shit pisses me off.
Everybody's so stupid. I don't get it. All right.
So I kind of had like another one, but I feel like we've also like already touched on it, which is, you know, just like antagonists that like engage in sexual assault as a way to like make me dislike them.
Yeah.
Very rarely is it like great when it's like, you know, like I feel like there has to be like a substantial more there to make it like not just this is the one thing that's like making them like terrible. Like they have to be like I feel like it's too much like of a shortcut sometimes for like one-off antagonists, or like, I mean,
that's true. Well, that said, the only example that really immediately comes to mind isn't it's Sword Art Online, and like there it's like, because there's two specific, there's three major instances of sexual assault. The one in Gun Gale is kind of like, you know, it's there for sure, but it's also like, if it's the actual
that's I don't care about that one. That one's fucking awesome.
It's more minor, right? Like there's less.
Yeah, like there's
stuff
it's
happening,
only like attempted assault. You know what I mean?
Right,
bro. Kirito busting in and kneeing that guy in the face.
Dude,
in
that shit
real
does
life,
go hard. That shit does go crazy. I actually agree.
No, I was gonna compare the moments basically. So that one, yeah, it's like it fits the character because he's just, you know, possessive of Sinon. Like that one's fine. The earlier one was Sugo. See,
no,
like,
that one goes crazy.
Well,
that one's good.
Well, so what? That was what made me think of it, because like Sugo does have a lot of shit to hate him for, but also he sexually assaults Asuna, right? Like it wasn't necessary, and it's also just look when he licks
it plays
her
a little
face,
too long too.
It's so funny. like once at first I'm like angry, and then he licks her face, and then it just hits like a point where it like tragedy goes into comedy, right? Like that's just where I'm at with that scene. Like it ends like
it's just like multiple licks, like. Holy fuck.
It's just so dumb, and it like
bro's trying to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop.
Why did you say it like that? But the one in Alicization, like, hurts me. It's rough to watch, and it leads to a fucking amazing moment. So it's like,
Is there 2 in Alicization? Because I'm not sure which. Like,
It's
if you're talking about the only one I can
that
think
leads
of,
to the Yu-Gi-Oh
then...
moment.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Resulted,
Okay, that
basically.
one. Because I was only thinking of the Leafia, like, what's her, like,
Oh, the
Suguha?
one in the War of Underworld. Okay,
Yeah,
I
so I was
about
like,
that one.
what amazing moment there.
Yeah, that one. I forgot about that one. So, which I think says enough about how I feel about it. Because it was, yeah. But yeah, because.
Yeah, Mr. Kawahara kind of has a problem.
I forgot about the Yu-Gi-Oh one. Yu-Gi-Oh one's good. I don't even register that one, honestly. It's like it is, but I just don't think about it that much.
Yeah, I forgot about that last one. So
I was also thinking the topic could expand to like things we just don't like in battle shonen that we do like a lot. Like, it doesn't really have to be like a trope or like things across multiple stories, just like in the particular thing.
Yeah, particular things in particular series. I don't like the Red Ribbon Army arc. That shit's lame as hell.
What the
Bozo fucking arc. It like lasts for such a long period of time of like OG Dragon Ball, and is like by far like probably my least favorite arc, especially at that length in the manga. Bozo shit.
sad.
I don't have a reply for that one. That's just sad, yeah.
I did, because I'm not going to talk about Dr. Slump here, but I did want to make a point that people who just really like early Dragon Ball, just read Dr. Slump. Like, what are you doing? Yeah, it's not, Red Ribbon Army isn't my favorite arc, but it's not my least favorite arc either. What's some stuff I hate? I mean, I already talked about some stuff I have problems with in One Piece.
I mean, I can think of one while you think of yours.
Go for it.
So, I feel like enough time has passed to be able to like actually say an opinion on this. I do think Star and Stripe and MHA is pretty bad. Like, not terrible. Like, it doesn't take down the manga in any way. Like, I don't really care about it, but like, I don't think that was good. Like, I guess spoilers for MHA if you haven't like it's not spoilers for like all the current stuff, but like, if you haven't seen Star and Stripe, I guess skip ahead or something. I still do, like, I feel like, you know, the number one hero of America just coming in out of nowhere and then like dying like incredibly fast is just like not really handled that well. I don't really think it has like any, like almost any impact because she just kind of shows up and isn't really like a character beforehand. I don't really mind it from the perspective of like her crippling Shigaraki when people were like freaking out about that doesn't even matter anymore. Like, at this point in the story, like, I don't really think her fighting back against him did anything other than like the characters having more time to prepare for him. But I do still think that like she as a character definitely is like one of Horikoshi's like weaker moments with a new character. Not really a fan.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think of your thing, Crafts?
No. See, the problem is I like Battle Shonen a lot. So, and I like the series I do.
Actual dick rider.
I hate anime adaptations.
I mean, I can't argue with that.
If anything, because they lead people to say dumb things and be dumb, and also they just like kind of are dumb, you know. And the problem is, like, I think that for a lot of anime adaptations, just in general, they are like an inferior version with no fix. You know what I mean? Like, people will like to do re-edits of things like One Piece and Naruto, but at the end of the day, those series are so fundamentally boomed from how stretched out the pacing has to be for even the most like benign of things, where like, you know, conversations as they are get stretched out, you know what I mean? And like little minor things get stretched out to like have the shows basically function as they do, that like I don't think they're like salvageable even in like a perfect edit, you know what I mean?
I'm gonna disagree with you. First of all, One Piece's anime is good as fuck. I'm I'm finally always gonna be on that train. That's just good as fuck.
I can't speak on the whole.
As for
anime, but I can say that
Naruto,
the first 17 episodes are good as fuck. So,
as for Naruto,
Okay, we'll see when you
yeah,
get to
there's
Fishman.
obviously some things there, but
We'll see
Bro.
how you feel about Dressrosa.
Fishman Island and Dressrosa is like over 600 episodes into the anime. Are you kidding?
Yeah,
like,
and
even
it's
if,
like
even
600
if we
episodes
say
of
that
the
those
anime.
are like, even if we say those arcs are like bad, which they're not in the anime, that's still like
A
most
quarter
of
of it,
the
yeah.
show being good as fuck. Like, are you kidding? Anyway, with Naruto, I feel like, yeah, it has its problems at parts, but the manga's still right there, you know? Like,
Right,
it's
well-
still cool to have it exist and be able to see it in like a different form. Like,
Yeah, but I'm
Yes.
not saying that like I'm not saying that like, you know, the series can't have like moments that are good. I'm saying that as like I would say that using the One Piece okay, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe that's a little bit of an egregious statement, but I would say it's close. It's genuinely like maybe closer to like going through the Storm games than it is to like the actual manga in terms of like getting the experience as like intended.
what, with Naruto's anime?
Yes, especially if you
Okay,
watch all the
brother.
filler, then you're just like booming yourself.
That's just cringe.
See, I didn't
That's
take
so
it back before I
cringe.
said it, but I started saying it, so I feel like I had to keep saying it.
Okay.
Like it's a scale, obviously, but I feel like it's, you know, it's not right next to the anime like people want to pretend to, or right like the anime is like not right next to the manga like on the scale like people want to pretend. You know what I mean? Like it's a ways off. It's far. You know what I mean?
I just feel like with the anime thing, not that you need to like lower your standards. Like I don't want to say it like that, but I feel like like you're expecting
Quality, something
It's-
good. Yeah.
no.
it's so toxic.
I don't know. I think you're just being cringe. You need to like lighten up a little and be like, oh my god, this thing I really love is in this long form thing I can sit back and enjoy and have
But I
different
can't sit back and
reasons to enjoy
it.
this adaptation that does different things.
No, I hate it.
Okay, weird guy.
I mean, I don't know. So like, I'll just talk about it here. Like, I'll save it for a backlog thing because I won't save it for a backlog thing because I have, you know, I've been planning on watching all of the One Piece anime. And by all of it, I mean everything that's translated to English, which is to say, as far as I'm 17 episodes in, I've also seen the Gonzak OVA, which was done by a different studio, the first movie again, and also a recap special that recaps the first 5 episodes. So like I'm literally like, because it's like I've gone through the story so many times, like I'm not in a rush. Like I told you guys, my friends. Or you know, they were watching it at like fucking 1.5 speed English dubbed, with skipping all the openings and recaps, so that they so they can get through it as fast as possible. But like, I'm already caught up with the manga. I don't.
Yeah,
need
that's
to
exactly
get
what
it.
I mean.
Yeah, right. Like I don't, you know, I don't agree with that, but like I don't need. So I'm just kind of vibing. Like I don't mind like watching literally everything because it's like I already know I fundamentally like the story. So I'm trying to like not only see it through a different lens because especially the Viz translation, I've gone through the manga, especially the earlier manga, so many times that I just like skim through it practically because like I know what text is in the panels. Like it's already, you know, it's already so internalized for me that like I kind of need to go through it a different way at this point to get more things out of it. And I'm also trying to very much kind of accept like, or at least recognize, you know, the anime's differences because it'll add stuff to the characters or in some like, so one example or even just, and like little things can add to, or how so to give an example of how I'm thinking about something differently is so, in the first episode, which actually adapts the Alvida stuff, Luffy is attacked from behind and he complains about it. Like, hey, it's not fair to attack from behind or stuff like that. I was like, wait a minute, that's kind of weird because I was thinking about like how, you know, in literally the first chapter and episode 4, one of Shanks's crew members shoots a bandit in the back of his head. You know, and then like, you know, in the Katakuri fight, Luffy didn't mind like Katakuri fight, you know, because Katakuri's like, sorry for my family, and Luffy's like, you know, it's fine. Like he doesn't mind Katakuri fighting in an unfair way because like they're pirates, and that's kind of what Shanks says. Like Shanks says, right? Like you know, so I was like, it's a little out of character, and they're making Luffy a bit more heroic because they make it less violent, you know, because it's a TV anime, like that makes sense. But then when Zoro gets stabbed by Buggy, Luffy says the same thing, and I fucking check my volume, and there he is saying the same thing. So I'm just like, oh, so I guess I didn't understand Luffy as well as I thought. You know, so now I don't know what the fuck to think. And I also remembered like there was a specific mention of Whitebeard not having wounds of retreat on the back. So I'm basically just like now I've had this specific weird element of back attacks in One Piece, and I'm now breaking it down, and as I go through the anime, I'm going to focus on it and see what I can get out of it, right? So like there's just an example of like a thing that the anime added that I thought what didn't fit but actually does fit, and I don't know what the fuck to think anymore. And then like, yeah, some of the ways it's adapted is funny. And just, I mean, some of it's just fun. Like the first movie, like Vindy, I liked it more than when we watched it and discussed it. Like, it's just really funny and, you know, visually solid. And I think the conflict is cool. Like, I just continued to enjoy it. Just sat there for an hour and was like, yeah, this is like the third time I've seen this movie, and it's still just a fun, cool movie, you know? Like, there's like, so they use this like guitar riff sometimes, like when Django at the end of one episode, they have Django the hypnotist coming into town, and they just like turns over his shoulder and then go meow, and then the episode ends, and it's just so stupid. Like silly stuff like that. It's also just like nice to just slowly go through this thing that's like seeing the characters for the first time again, like watching Nami and Usopp argue when they face down the Black Cat Pirates, and I'm just like, hey, it's the Weakling Trio becoming the Weakling Trio, as they're like Nami, they're arguing about who's more scared, and like, you know, it's just the Straw Hats again, but just like, you know, seeing the relationships come into play and being formed is really cool. You know, and it's like, yeah, I can get that in the manga by reading it again, but like, again, just because I've gone through the manga so many times, and I'm just inclined to speed through it because I read it so many times that just like vibing and taking my time with the longer anime has appealed to me. Like, another thing I just came to appreciate more is Captain Kuro, who I realized I actually really liked Captain Kuro way back when. I don't know why.
Okay.
Like I would adjust my glasses like he did. Which is the most teenage thing I could describe. But, like, he's just, I mean, because, like, as an antagonist and a character, he's really serious. Like, he's an assassin, basically a fucking murderous assassin. And, you know, he inspires all this fear in his men. But he's also just really funny. Like, I've got some screen caps of him just being a fucking goober and just making silly faces. And or a silly pose in one case. Yeah, they're going to take forever to upload. Fuck my internet. Whatever. The audience at home can see it on the screen right now. But I probably enjoyed the Maple Village arc more watching it than I have going through it ever in any form in a long time. Like, I just vibed with the arc, and I noticed, you know, clicked some things together that I'm not sure if I did before, and you know, it was good. I liked it. And, you know, I'm gonna take my watch through slow. Like, I was actually planning on watching it, like, probably, you know, after, like, my anime, manga, and video games, like, rewatch, replay favorites and stuff. But, you know, so I was planning on... So any episodes I watch now are just me watching ahead, basically. But, yeah, like, even if I'd never like it as much as the manga, which especially considering, like, yeah, I'm gonna have to reconcile that. Yeah, there's just this giant chunk of, like, 400 episodes that are just really, like, paced slow and don't have as much good stuff.
Dressrosa in the anime is still good.
I don't know that. I never watched it. That's why I want to watch it and find out. But I'm just kind of apprehensive about it because I do know that it's at the period where the anime just doesn't look as good and it's slower. And not even just Dressrosa, but also, like, as I think it starts around, like, the war or those arcs. Because I remember seeing some scenes in Empel Down that were also really, like, dragged, basically. So I'll that's why I want, because like I said, I want to watch all of it, and you know, I don't want to skip recaps, like, you know, and shit. I just gonna vibe and go through all of it. So yeah, like, I guess, like, I don't need, I think maybe especially talking about, like, how I've gotten things out of, like, the fucking Plunderer, right, where it's like I didn't finish the show, I didn't really like it, but there's still bits in there that I thought were neat. Like, even if I don't want to engage with it, like, it's sad when when something like that is someone's only experience with it, because I remember seeing an old, like, One Piece bad video, and basically all of their problems were from the anime. Like, their problems that they mentioned weren't in or weren't representative of the series. It was just representative of the anime, right? So I wouldn't want it to be someone's only experience, but, like, in certain cases, but I don't think, having an inferior like I was even just thinking while Vindy you were talking, like I think it's kind of neat that Hunter x Hunter has like, and Fullmetal Alchemist have 3 different versions you can go through with different strengths and weaknesses. Like I personally, like for Hunter x Hunter, vastly prefer the manga, but like I'm sure if I watched the 2011 anime, I wouldn't be able to put it down. Like I was fucking watching it at a disgusting speed when I went through it the first time, having already read the manga. And I think, the 98.9 adaptation, like, it's very different, but it's still interesting in its own way. So,
Yeah, I like at this point, I'm much more accepting of like, the anime has its own version of the characters. Even if like they're 90% the same, there's still that like 10% difference that like I'm not going to let just bother me. Like I'm just going to like understand that this is the anime and the manga is the manga, especially when like the anime will like emphasize traits that are indeed there. It's just like not as apparent in the manga, which sometimes can be good, but sometimes can be like bad. I feel like in some of the like Naruto filler, they like re-emphasize his like prankster side that like kind of like goes away a little bit more than the anime makes it seem at times. But like I feel like within certain filler, within certain parts of the story, it's actually like kind of fine, especially when like it's Naruto like kind of actually helping someone out with his like prankster kind of goofy side, which I actually like to see. And I don't know, like I feel like it kind of makes sense too that like some aspects of him would come out more when he's not in missions and like in these serious things, because like after the tuning exams, there's not much break in between arcs, but the anime gets the chance to do that. So you get to see like what he might be like outside of all these arcs and all these like serious things going on. Like he still is childish, so it's like of course that's gonna like come out. Anime is good.
I guess
Vindy's being weird.
Well, I think like.
What do you mean?
I understand where like, because like my say, if you're only gonna eat one cake, eat the better cake. But if you have the time and patience and interest in this story, just eat all the cakes, right? Like,
yeah, that's exactly it. Is that like I'm not saying that I hate the anime because
he hates it.
They exist. It's that like it was the same thing. Like to reiterate what I was even trying to say about like Naruto in terms of the anime and Ninja Storm. It's not that like the anime is as bad as Ninja Storm, but it's that like the anime is not a substitute for the manga. You know what I mean? Like they're not. I don't know. That's the part that like gets me the most. Is like people will be like, "Oh yeah, I went through Naruto or One Piece. I like watched it." It's like, okay, well, like I hope you like just like kneecapping yourself. You know what I mean?
I mean, and especially like because I think part of the reason what motivated me to eventually watch the One Piece anime is just it's kind of the same reason I do like to watch and read, or am interested in watching and reading and playing a bunch of shit, and including like what I'm doing with like Megami Tensei right now and lots of franchises, just going back to the beginning and playing through all of it, is I just want to be informed, right? Like I don't want to be on the back foot. I want to understand the thing, and so like I can't really talk about One Piece from having as an anime from having seen like less than half of it, right? So like that's part of what's motivating my decision to not just watch it, but watch like literally fucking everything. Like even these fucking like obscure ass recap specials that most people haven't watched or even heard of. That because why would you watch a One Piece recap that only recaps the first 5 episodes? Like, no, why would anyone watch that? But I did, and the second half actually had some fun character banter, like them, like Zoro talking about how like, oh man, most of what I've done up to this point is get stabbed, and be like captured, which I thought was funny. So you'll get stuff like that, but I don't know. I'll see. Yeah. So.
I guess to like bring it like a little more directly back to the topic, something that I don't like in a manga I really enjoy is I don't like how long Inuyasha is. It's one of the few like long running battle shonen thing that I actually have a problem with its like length. For like 30% shorter, maybe it would be like way better to me. Like I just feel like some of that stuff after some of the midpoint really like drags on, especially when like some of the conflicts really aren't relevant to like the overarching building story. It's stuff that like shows like, you know, Inuyasha has changed and like he's willing to like detour from the main journey to help out all these villages and to like, you know, he can get invested in people's like problems even if it doesn't benefit him, which is like cool and like, you know, something that makes him like his growth great. But I feel like after a certain point with how long the manga is, there doesn't need to be as many instances of those. And like I feel like it could cut out some of that and it wouldn't lose much. So that is something that like, you know, kind of gets in the way of like me loving Inuyasha as much as I could, even if like the main emotional core of the story is like really, really good to me. There's like more stuff with Inuyasha I guess I could like not complain about, but like point out that's like not the best, but it doesn't really like bother me that much personally. Maybe like, you know, somewhat like Inuyasha's sword has like a lot of different abilities. But there's only like really like maybe 3 of them that get consistently used. But then like, even though like one of the abilities, which is to like cut through barriers, is like its own separate ability, Naraku just makes stronger barriers so that cutting through barrier power doesn't work. So he needs to use something else, which is kind of funny. Like it's literally just to cut through barriers, but it can't do that anymore. But I don't know. It's a little silly, but it's whatever to me.
I did think about something I hate about a series I really like. So Bleach. So this motherfucker Kubo is like, yeah, Burn the Witch and Hell Arc. We're doing 2 Bleach sequels, and then he does like one fucking one shot for the Hell Arc, 1 volume of Burn the Witch. It's been fucking years, Kubo. Fucker, you piece of shit. Don't tease me and then fuck off. Like I've been edging for fucking years. Let me come, Kubo. Fuck.
Oh.
I feel like at this point it's gonna be after Thousand Year Blood War anime ends or close to it
might
before
even
Hell
just
Arc.
be
I
an
don't
anime
know.
thing because like Burn the Witch. I never actually watched it, but apparently the Burn the Witch volume got like a really cool adaptation. I think Mathwas liked it. I think she's the only one. And then apparently Thousand Year Blood War anime is going hard, so it would be. I could see it continuing with the Hell Arc anime. Just kind of continue up from where the one shot left off. So
I kind of still assumed it was just going to be a manga thing. I thought it was just
maybe.
like,
That's
you know,
awesome.
once
Okay.
the adaptation's done here, let's drop the new like manga content.
Yeah,
Especially because like people who haven't read it in a while, they get to like just kind of at least watch the end of Bleach and then just like pick up in the manga again. And also like, isn't Kubo like kind of more involved with the Thousand Year Blood War like anime? So like he could be busy with that, I guess.
Yeah. But anyway, I feel like we've exhausted the topic. So
Oh my god, can we talk about the best show of all time?
Vindy actually picked a good show for once.
Dude, I
insane.
Can't believe that a show about a man who is a vending machine was so goofy. I mean, I knew it would be goofy, but like actually like the good kind of goofy. First of all, the fact that he was just like a vending machine like fanatic anyways is so fucking funny actually. You know what I mean? Like that shit had me fucking cracking up. I liked that he has his whole little like vending machine like he's got like his whole little upgrade bar. I don't know. It's just like a funny premise and setup, and I'm excited to see where the show goes. And I mean, I'm expecting it to just be like a fun slice of life show, but I liked the first episode. I thought it did its job well.
I feel like something about the episode that is actually like funny to see is how like the concept of the show, even though it's a vending machine going to an isekai world that's like, you know, less advanced and stuff, that actually like works to its strength, like in a way you wouldn't like assume. Just because like since they don't have that kind of technology and him just being able to say those like few phrases, they would take it as like actual sentience, which he is sentient, but like to a normal person in like a different kind of world, they wouldn't take it that way. But like I like how it gives an excuse for the characters to like see that he's sentient and to like talk to him.
Yeah, I like how quickly other characters like that blonde girl was immediately like, okay, how can I turn this into like a way where I can talk to you. You know what I mean? And very immediately it was like, okay, now we are like communicating, and here's how we can communicate. I thought that was like super good.
Yeah, like in like a modern world, if he actually just turned into a vending machine with only a few phrases, like it would be extremely hard to justify them talking to him. But like, funnily enough, it being in this world like makes for a perfect match, I feel like.
Yeah.
So there's two things I'm looking forward to. One is just seeing how the fuck such an inherently like limiting premise can possibly last to a longer form story. Like it's such like it'll be a thing. The other thing I'm looking forward to is seeing how fucking, if you guys get as bored as I was watching this episode throughout because y'all hate seasonals.
What the fuck?
Wait, you were bored?
It was a boring episode.
You need
Funny
to be killed?
girl carried vending machine.
The hot girl was the best part.
She
She had fat tits.
She'd have fat tits, but like you had nothing. You didn't like. I would love to see if it does more of like, because like the honestly the game kind of gave me the vibes of like or the show gave me vibes of like a game where you're like a shopkeeper, you know what I mean, or like even like a farming sim kind of like a Stardew kind of thing, where like, you know, it's gonna be way more about like him trying to keep up with the needs of the town. And I thought this episode had like some interesting parts to that already, and I would like to see that be done like more interestingly, like just a couple parts where like I liked him trying to think of like the needs of this community, right, where you know, anytime he like changed his like what he was offering, and I thought like another really cool part was the like the fucking when he was like, oh yeah, I'm not selling food during the day because I don't want to hurt the inn's business. I thought was like, you know, it's like a small little thing obviously, but I like that, you know, the series at least is thinking about like, you know, how is he trying to be a good vending machine almost. And then I definitely feel like this episode set up like something where once he goes to see this other lady and goes through the thing, I'm sure something changes. You know what I mean?
I like how like he literally, like in a very literal sense, needs money to live, but like he's still trying to be ethical and fair about it, partially because like he just thinks that's like kind of the right thing to do, but also because like he's a vending machine fanatic, and in his world he would love when like, oh, it was cheap, I could get this thing, you know, like he's thinking about his fan like thing about vending machines, so like it's influencing how he is now.
Well, yeah, and you even see him like he lowers prices a couple points. I was like, I would lower these prices even more, but you know I can't because I don't have enough points to stay alive for long enough. But then he also like was lowering the price of the water as she was carrying it so she could buy more. Like, I don't know, I like some of the small parts of the episode, and I'm curious to see more.
Yeah, like him just like trying to function better for like the other people is like super cool.
Yeah, I think especially if the series as it goes gives more of a sense of like the community he's in, and so then how he's fitting those needs, I think the series could actually be really interesting. I think we just have to see.
Well, like, so I don't know if this will actually be addressed. Like, it would be really cool if it is. But also just economy in fiction is kind of hard. Like, you know, play any video game. And, you know, the player just kind of fundamentally breaks the economy because they have to. But I was even, like, what I realized is that if I'm correct about the mechanics, like, they could add something or change something. But, like, because they put money into him, and he basically consumes it and transforms it into goods that are consumed, and then, like, there's no waste. Like, they get rid of the environmentalism, like, plastics issue, right? The problem
like
with
the
that
metal gets,
is that
yeah.
He's basically a black hole for money. And that, like, because when you use an actual vending machine or when you buy actual food, the money goes back into the economy. But he consumes it. Like, and in exchange, he feeds people. So, like you mentioned, like, oh, you know, he's being considerate of the inn and trying not to harm their business. But the difference is that when an inn gets money for food, they put the money back into the economy when they go buy to a restaurant or they buy new goods, right? But he's not doing that. So, like, I don't, so, like, if it doesn't come up, like, it's fine, because, like I said, economy is kind of hard, and, you know, at the end of the day, he might not be that big of an impact, because
and
he's
also
creating
he's also creating the food out of nothing, so it's not like it's weird.
But you know, if I'm correct and I'm not, like, missing a step, you know, he's feeding people in exchange for destroying their money, basically, so,
Dude, anti-inflation machine.
Okay, that's true. I didn't think of it like that. So
Honestly, America needs those.
It would be really interesting because I could see, because if this was a story that was published on Shosetsu, right, then someone might have commented on that, and that might have become part of the story, because that's kind of the space that, so I could see that it could very well come up in the future. But it was just the thought I had watching the episode of like, so we'll see what happens. It would be funny if
between your burning hatred, you did think about the show a little bit.
Oh yeah, but I just thought it would be funny if like by the time we get to episode 12, like I'm like, yeah, this show is neat and interesting, and you guys are like, make it stop. I want it to be over. I hate seasonals. Like that's just a complete flip from this episode. That would be funny.
No, seasonals are back. I like seasonals now. Oshinoko was just a bad apple.
So much.
I guess one other thing about the episode when they were like talking about how maybe he could like talk more in the future, kind of sort of like it made it seem like maybe he could like they'll be able to understand him better. I honestly wouldn't mind him being able to like either kind of talk or just like have more phrases to say.
Well, yeah, I in a sense I'm not going to say that's an inevitability because like, I like I mentioned earlier, the show is just, the concept is just so inherently limiting that I'm kind of just fascinating in seeing what the fuck they're gonna do about that, and unlimiting the concept by would it be a way to fix that basically, if that makes sense, or make give the story more room to continue. They could also focus more on other characters that aren't the vending machine and just make you wonder why the show is called this.
I mean, like honestly, the thing that I'm thinking the show will do is like when there'll be a cast of characters who are exploring like a fucking dungeon, since it is like I think dungeon is in the title of the show somewhere.
No,
so like I'm assuming they're gonna take him into the dungeon, and there's gonna be like a whole thing there.
Yeah, that'll probably go in. Yeah, we'll see. Because now I did forget that there's a whole last part of the premise that we only got mentioned, so we'll see how that factors, how the mechanics of the dungeon factor into the mechanics of the vending machine, because that's presumably the basis for the entire series. So
yeah, well, that's I almost wonder, is he gonna, because like this episode hinted at, and that's what I was trying to I guess say, but I didn't, is like clearly there's like other mechanical things about the world and stuff we'll learn once the girl gets the money to teleport out and go see the person that she's trying to meet, right? Like when that happens, I'm sure we'll meet more characters and get a better idea of like the mechanics of the world. But I like that this first episode didn't want to focus too much on that and didn't give us like too much exposition. It just kind of was like, he's a vending machine now. Let's figure out what that means. And then, later on, once we know what him being a vending machine, because like, I think the premise of like, oh yeah, this guy gets reincarnated as a vending machine, like I think it can be really easy to just throw that away as a concept to be like, okay, how does that get interesting? But at least this episode took the time to explain like what he could do as a vending machine and where his agency lies in the story, so that now we can understand, once we learn more about the world and what actually, like whatever the conflict of the series is, because like I also like that, like the reason I like that he's a vending machine like guy and is excited to just like he thinks he's like dreaming, he's so happy to be in a vending machine, is that like the conflict isn't going to be how does he get out of the vending machine, which is like cool. I like that the character isn't just like bummed out the whole time that he's a fucking vending machine. It's way more fun if he's super into it and super excited about it, you know what I mean? And so like even just that at the beginning kind of like got me hooked, and now I'm curious to see like how does he solve like the conflicts that come his way.
Yeah, and like I can already think of like a few ways that would be like interesting to see like how he functions in the dungeons. Like, obviously, food for the people in his party, and then like he has his barrier, but like there could also be things where like they get food out of him to throw out the to throw out as like a distraction for monsters or whatever. Like there's like, a couple different things there, especially if he does get some more magic to use.
Yeah.
Like I feel like what's interesting about the series is kind of seeing how it'll solve problems that are created by its own like simple premise. It was good. I liked it.
Yeah. Well, and just to bring up a bit of Weeb Club history is you and what were super into Cautious Hero for like 5 episodes, and then you weren't. So, first impression,
Well, that's
we'll
true.
find out. So I guess just to bring up another example of an isekai with a limited premise.
I've got you. Even one more. I can bring another example of a series that I was super into at the beginning and not as much as it kept going. You know what I mean?
Oh, fuck you. I hate these people.
I had to.
All right, now do your backlog thing. I need to get out of here.
Okay. Well, my backlog thing is the Gutsy Frog because I finally finished it, and also
Are
the
we doing
movie.
2 rotations or?
I mean, I think I only have one. I don't know if I have
we could
2.
do one. That's why I wanted to ask before we got into it. So,
But yeah, really good show. I liked it a lot. I think its episodes and like how it ends episodes has enough variety to the point where I could have watched all 102 episodes and then continued on to the 30 episode sequel series, but fortunately that's 22 episodes translated, and then also the movie, which is part of the sequel series, which is like the original series is an early 70s show, and then the other one's 80s. So like there is I could definitely see the big difference between like the animation and like how the characters look, and even the world seemed kind of different. Like it seemed a little more modern in the movie, like not modern, but like the community they lived in seemed a little bigger, and the school looked kind of different. I don't know if that's like, since I'm just jumping into the movie, which like is part of the sequel series, and I don't think it's like the original series, then the movie, then the sequel series. I'm pretty sure the sequel series was already like at least somewhat going, and then the movie came out somewhere in there. So like there was some things I wasn't like used to seeing, and like I kind of just didn't. For the movie, I didn't like how the characters looked. They just looked weird. Like I felt like it looked like they simplified the shapes of the characters more to like draw them like easier, and kind of like it was just like a way in which like I just didn't like how they looked. It was like really apparent with like Gorilla Imo, which is like the bully gorilla character.
I've never seen the show in motion, but just judging from the screen caps you post, the movie definitely looked like more jank. So,
yeah, and like the shape of Hiroshi's head is so weird, and like I don't know. I really wasn't that into the look of the movie. But I do like the show a lot. Like I like how, even though like Hiroshi as a character is like definitely like a very bratty like kid, which I wasn't really expecting when I was like first watching it. Like, sometimes he'll either he'll like hit on other women, even though like he is essentially already dating one of the characters, Kyoko. Like they're basically in a relationship. Like sometimes they'll say that they're like boyfriend and girlfriend, and then like sometimes they'll make it seem like they aren't, but they basically are. And like everyone in the show itself like knows that and basically sees them as like in a relationship. It's just kind of like in that kid way where it's like less official, but and then also like sometimes he'll like pull pranks and like you just do like random like kid shit. But then like I like how sometimes like he'll also just like show that he is like a good person at the end of the day. Like he'll stick up for Kyoko if she's like in trouble, or he'll try to help out like other characters within the series just in like various scenarios. A couple episodes I really liked was just like one where like he was like mistaken about his mom. Like essentially his mom was really sad about him not like studying and stuff, and like him just like slacking off, and like through various things he gets this like misinformed idea that she's gonna kill herself over it. Because she goes in to like get some medicine, and there's this other lady who's also there at the same time getting medicine, and like the other lady was getting like medicine that was like people can use for suicide. And when he was going into that like place to see like what kind of medicine she was getting, because he was like seeing like, oh, she seems sick and not well. He was told it was like those like sleeping pills or whatever. So he just kind of like, like the lady was telling him about the other person that was in there and not his mom. So like he thought it was like for her. So like it just like kind of had like a really like wholesome like flashback of how she always like took care of him, and kind of just like him just like actually promising to like study and like do these things as long as she doesn't like kill herself. It's really wholesome, even though he doesn't actually end up studying, because like it is an episodic show, so like some lessons it's like obviously it will like go back on it. But yeah, I like the show. There's like a lot of like reoccurring things that I think are like somewhat funny about how like Hiroshi is like, he's so weak that like he literally has to be carried by Pyonkichi, which is the frog on his shirt, whenever he's like fighting Gorilla Imo. Like it's really like Pyonkichi who's always beating Gorilla Imo when they fight. Like he'll essentially bite the belly button of Gorilla Imo to like beat him, or like just bite various parts of him, and that's basically how they win whenever they fight against him. But yeah, good show. I like the cast. I think as it went along, there was definitely like more of them that stood out over time. Like, one of the characters I like was Ume Samurai. Like, I don't even know how to say, like, well, I guess the short is Ume or whatever. He's like this sushi, like he makes sushi and stuff, and he delivers it. I think one of the things I like about him is how sometimes he's kind of like Hiroshi's like father figure a little bit. There's even like an episode where Hiroshi like gets this idea that he's like trying to marry his mom even though he's not, but like he like eventually just kind of like accepts him like as his father, which was like weirdly wholesome. It was good. I wish there's more of it. It is like coming out on like a YouTube channel right now, like the official TMS channel. So like it, for some reason they're subbing it. I just don't know how much they'll sub.
How many episodes is it total again for the original series, not the sequel?
It's 102.
Ooh.
They're at episode 10, but this is the actual TMS channel, so they're actually putting it out for some reason.
Huh.
It's lower quality than what I'm watching, but if they get past episode 22, I'll start watching from here.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. My turn?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Vindy Vondo.
Oh my goodness, call me by my fucking legal name. Jesus. Okay. I guess I don't know. I'll talk about Cocaine Bear.
Right, that movie.
Yeah, the goat. So I watched Cocaine Bear. Here's the thing. First of all, not enough bear in my movie. I think any scene where the bear is on coke and he's crazy and he's a funny guy went kind of hard. The problem is there is this whole long ass plot of like these fucking kids that was like the worst part of the fucking game.
The game?
Or the fucking movie. Oh my god, my brain doesn't work. The worst part of the
You're
fucking
too much
movie
of a gamer.
were
You
these
game too hard.
Stupid fucking kids. I hated them. I think you probably could have taken the kids out and like put more time on like the other people in the movie that were more interesting, or just more scenes of the bear. Because again, I thought the scenes with the cocaine bear were funny. There were little coked up cubs, like little bear cubs that were coke addicts. That also went crazy. Yeah, that's really like, I mean, it's Cocaine Bear. It's a bear on cocaine, doing shit, being coked out of his fucking tiny little bear brain. Or I guess her, because Cocaine Bear was a woman, but you know. Shit went crazy. Banger movie. Not actually, but you know, if you're okay with the fact that there's too many kids and not enough bear in your Cocaine Bear, but like you know what I mean, like I'd recommend it, but also you got to know what you're getting in for, you know what I mean?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Dude, if you like cocaine and you like bears, just check out the movie, you know what I mean?
I feel like I just.
But if you
go
hate
to a
children,
zoo.
probably don't watch it. So you got to be like liking cocaine and bears and tolerable of children, and it's fine. You know?
Okay. All right. So, a couple days ago, it turns out I got 4th of July off, and I did not expect that because my entire, every other job I worked has been retail, so I kind of expect to work most holidays. So they're like, yeah, we're not working tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I was like, well, what? I was driving home. I'm like, well, okay, I have an unexpected day off in the middle of the week. What the fuck am I gonna do with myself? Like, should I go to my way do something? And I realized I had a thought. I need to do something fucking American, fucking patriotic, but also personal to me. So I decided to rewatch Small Soldiers, which came up a couple weeks ago when we talked about childhood favorites. It's a movie that I hyperfixated on as a kid. A little after Toy Story came out, I think, or same year, give or take. I think a little after. And so the movie is, I mean, it's still a little silly in some ways. It's definitely like visually not great. Like the direction was kind of boring, and obviously the CG is about as good as late '90s CG can be. Which still isn't, whatever. It's whatever. It's a 25-year-old movie, so it is what it is. But I still enjoyed it. Like basically no nostalgia. I didn't have any feelings of like, oh, my childhood. Like I was just decently engaged the whole way through. The premise being that two toy designers in a company that gets bought out by a big corporation. Well, one of them puts military AI chips into toys that the soldier toys then proceed to basically, fulfill their mission in destroying the monster toys and end up also becoming, like the way that like the action of the movie is fun in that they sort of like weaponize a lot of like actual household appliances and shit. Like the climax of the movie has them riding around on like little RC cars and stuff, but they're like outfitted like they have one that's like it's got a nail gun on it that they're like shooting it like a machine gun, or they have one machine that like lights tennis balls on fire and throws them, and so that's pretty fun. Like there's like a chase sequence in the movie where like all their cars, they were like attached to each other and they like can't make a jump, and then they like crash and Hollywood explosion happens, and so they all just like all the like most of the toys like burn, and it's really funny because it just randomly explodes. I love random Hollywood explosions. They're so funny. But the actual conflict of the movie, I guess, was kind of interesting. Because it's basically sort of criticizing how what I took away from the movie is because so the movie opens and there's the two toy designers, and one of them's like, yeah, these monster toys, they look monstrous, but they're actually like really cool and peaceful, and they're looking for their home, so I want to make the kids kind of like research and look for the home and learn, and then once he says that, the CEO, whose name is Mars after the Roman god of war, is like, nope, next. He doesn't care. He wants, kids don't buy toys to learn, they buy toys to make money. But like if you go down the toy aisle for like baby toys, like every single one of those fuckers has like letters and shapes and colors and numbers on them, because toys and games and play are a big way of how we learn. Like I'm pretty sure we can all say that the systems we have the best understanding of are video game systems, because they force you to learn them to get through the game, right? And so basically the movie sort of criticizes that element of like soldier toys specifically, where how I guess it's like the premise is basically like bringing through the soldier toys with actual military chips, they bring more to these two families, and which normalization of violence through. And just especially like the way the culture sort of idealizes soldiers, which when it's not an actually ideal position to be in or anything to look positive, like it's rough, and a lot like war crimes and not great. But so I was just surprised at like how the writing, and I got some things out of it, and I was it was cool. I think I lost my thread somewhere in there. But yeah, like it's definitely not like apparently the movie was like because it's actually a DreamWorks co-production, which I imagine they handled that studio handled the animation. I don't know when it came out relative to the actual like CG DreamWorks movies. Like I think Ants was the first one that I remember, but I do remember like a thing with DreamWorks is that like they were trying to be edgier than Disney, and I do apparently when the movie was originally like being planned, it was meant to be like on that like darker in it because it is kind of violent. Like there's blood. Like I like watching it again. I was like, oh, I watched this as a kid, and my parents would have seen most of it, and they were fine with this. So okay, But then apparently at some point they wanted it to be like a bigger franchise, so they had to like tone it down so it could be more marketable and stuff. So I don't really know what elements come from what, but I don't know. I was fine with the finished product as is. Then the added layer to this is while I was poking around on Wikipedia, within the last like 2 or 3 weeks, a fucking company released a proof of concept trailer for a 5-minute proof of concept trailer for like a sequel spin-off movie of Small Soldiers, the first part of this franchise in 25 years. So that timing was weird. And then when I was looking into the company, apparently they were also responsible for a Metabots video game NFT scam a couple years ago. That was a whole ass Twitter thread I read.
Let's fucking go.
That was so basically my 4th of July was a fucking adventure. I watched a movie and it ended off learning about the fucking as part of the NFT thing they got like a celebrity sponsorship or deal thing with the twins from Breaking Bad. So I went into the day going Small Soldiers and I left the day with a Metabots Breaking Bad crossover. So it was weird. So yeah, that was the whole thing that happened. Yeah, that's it. What about next week, gamers? I'm just calling everyone gamers now. This is your fault.
Hell yeah. Everyone is a gamer. None?
So if I don't finish anything, then Sonic Generations. But if I finish something, then probably something else, because Generations is not that good.
Or both
Fair
things.
enough.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess if we do 2 rotations, yeah. Actually, I'll probably be finished with Mashley by next week.
God damn. So aside from the things that I already have as a backlog to talk about, I also just finished Kaguya-sama today, so I can talk about that as well.
I'll probably talk about Final Fantasy 3 because I would be surprised if I didn't finish that game by next week. I have like 2 dungeons.
Yeah, I don't think I'll have anything else finished by next week that I can think about. I already mentioned, I mentioned Aikatsu last week because I am done with that. But I ain't gonna be finished with Stars for a few months. So yeah, all right. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time.
See ya.